Welcome to the MontCAS Test Security and Data Integrity video series. The purpose of this video is to provide the viewer with information on Montana's participation requirements and the ways to determining student eligibility for meaningful participation in the statewide assessments. This video will explore these four objectives so the viewer can complete this training with the following understandings. The Montana Comprehensive Assessment System, also known as MontCAS, includes a suite of statewide assessments that meet the testing requirements of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, amended as the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA. The ESSA requires that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education and reach, at a minimum, proficiency on challenging state academic achievement standards and state academic assessments. What participation is required? Participation is necessary to ensure the data are representative and reflective of the population. When participation rates fall below the state and federal requirements, bias can be introduced into the student's knowledge, skills, and ability estimates, thus reducing the overall confidence we have in the data and ultimately interfering with the inferences that can be made about the data. In Montana, there is no opt-out law. Both state law and accreditation rules require all students in public and accredited non-public schools to participate in state testing. The OPI recognizes there are circumstances beyond the control of the school that may result in non-participation. In those rare cases, the district must report the reason for non-participation to the OPI using the MontCAS application. School districts, school staff, parents, and students are critical partners for ensuring state testing is meaningful and for purposes of setting education policy, examining school and group performance, and making local decisions about curriculum and instruction. For the state and federal required subject areas and grade levels, schools must have 95% or more student participation in the statewide assessments, either overall for all students or for any student subgroup consisting of 10 or more students. 1% or less of all students with most significant cognitive disabilities taking the alternate assessment based on alternative achievement standards. This figure illustrates the calculations the OPI uses to determine the participation rates for testing that are displayed on the Montana ESSA report card and within the accountability differentiation process. Per the OPI's policy and federal reporting, only students with medical exemptions can be removed from the denominator, meaning all other instances of non-participation impact the school's participation rate. The testing window spans from the first week of December to the second week of May. Therefore, all students enrolled after the testing count date should be included to the fullest extent possible per Chapter 56 assessment rules. As a standard of accreditation, Chapter 56 went through the negotiated rulemaking process involving independent stakeholders. Chapter 56 was amended to reflect several major developments in Montana's statewide assessments, including the 2015 reauthorization of the ESCA and the 2016 adoption of the new science standards, the 2017 Department's peer review for 3 single statewide summative assessments, and the 2018 Department's approval of Montana's state ESSA plan. This section includes the 6 rules for the philosophy of statewide assessments and the modification requirements for implementing new statewide assessments in accredited schools, ARM Chapter 56. In general, these 6 rules in this subchapter on statewide assessments stipulate: 1. Authority for rules and who they are intended for. 2. Philosophy of assessment in Montana. 3. The obligation for funding the assessments. 4. The requirement of notice for any proposed modification to the assessment. 5. The alignment considerations the OPI will make when developing a recommendation to the board. 6. The activities that will be conducted when developing assessments. Of this subchapter, Rule 5 and 6 are new. This section includes the 6 rules for the grade and content area tested requirements and the expectation for all accredited schools and students to participate in the 6 mandated assessments, ARM Chapter 56. These 6 rules in the subchapter on participation have been generalized as 1. Authority for rules and who they are intended for. 2. All school districts must administer assessments. 3. Administer tests in accordance with state and federal laws that meet or exceed the following: aligned English language arts and mathematics assessments in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11, aligned science assessments in grades 5, 8, and 11, and in the spring of each year. 4. Aligned to Montana English Language Proficiency Assessments to all students identified as English learners in grades K through 12, mid-school year. 5. Board may approve alternative grade levels and timelines for the administration of statewide assessments due to the availability of assessments and other academic factors. 6. Parental notice on assessments. Rule number 3 has been amended to reflect new tested grades for science, and rules 5 and 6 are new to Chapter 56. This section includes the 4 rules for the reporting and audit requirements of test security in accredited schools, ARM Chapter 56. 1. The OPI's responsibility to audit test administration. 2. Test administration requirements for school district employees. 3. Suspected violations of test security reported immediately to the OPI. 4. Consequences of test security violations. For example, failure to comply with the administration of test security requirements may result in one or more of the following penalties. A. Invalidating test scores for an individual student or for groups of students. B. Placing a school on a monitoring list for future test administrations. C. Prohibiting specific personnel from administering a test in the future. D. Requiring retraining plan for a school or district. E. Making a recommendation for consequences to the Board of Public Education for further action within the limits of its authority. These 4 rules are entirely new to Chapter 56. This section includes the 3 rules for providing students with the appropriate accessibility and accommodation supports based on individual student needs in accredited schools, ARM Chapter 56. For example, 1. Schools administer assessments with or without accommodations based on individual student needs. 2. The IEP teams determine if the student meets the eligibility criteria for the statewide alternative assessment. 3. Schools use guidance from OPI to identify English learners and annually monitor individual progress in acquiring academic English. These 3 rules have been amended to reflect the ESSA reauthorization in 2015. This section includes the 3 rules for the reporting of student achievement data in accredited schools, ARM Chapter 56. 1. OPI provide a report of the state assessment results to the legislature and the Board of Public Education. 2. Make assessment data available in compliance with confidentiality requirements. 3. Assessment results are a part of each student's permanent record. There is little or no changes in these rules from previous years. This document and the Statewide Assessment Participation and Registration Guide are resources intended to convey the importance of participating in the statewide assessments and explain the OPI's participation policies and registration processes for the Montana Comprehensive Assessment System summative assessments. Remember, the OPI, school districts, school staff, and students are critical partners in ensuring participation in statewide assessments. Every stakeholder in assessment should understand why participation is important, how it is used, and what the implications are if participation is limited or inaccurate. The next video discusses some of the examples of what happens when participation isn't complete or accurate. Now please take a moment to complete these H5P questions before we move on to the next concepts.